What if you came back to tell you that you needed to deal with your shit?
Wonder with us. I'm Bethany,
I am still Connor.
and this is Wonder with Us.
It is still the best podcast we will release today.
We're talking about The Twilight Zone,
Episode 29.
Nightmare as a Child. Originally aired April 29th, 1960.
Written by Rod Brain Daddy Serling.
Brain Daddy.
If you want to know more about him, see episode 28 where I couldn't breathe.
Talked about him in multiple paragraphs, taking 2 breaths the entire time. It was great.
And guys, I'm good.
Yeah, go listen to it. This episode was directed by Alvin Ganzer. He had 71 directing credits. Born August 27th, 1911, before the Titanic sank, in Cold Spring, Minnesota. He was director and assistant director, known for The Twilight Zone 1959, The Leather Saint 1956, and 3 Bites of the Apple 1967. He died January 3rd, 2009, in Kauai, Hawaii.
There's just so little production cast. I wasn't expecting to get into the cast already.
Tell me about the cast.
First, we have Janice Rule, who played Barbara Jean Trenton. Janice Rule was born August 15th, 1931, in Norwood, Ohio.
Have you been there?
Have I been to Ohio or Norwood specifically?
Yes.
I do not believe I have been to Norwood. I think I would remember such a name.
And Ohio? You've been to Ohio?
I have been to Ohio.
All right.
I don't think I ever went through Norwood. If we did, we didn't stop for long.
Fair.
She died October 17th, 2003 in Manhattan, New York.
Wow.
Of
Long way from Ohio.
cerebral hemorrhage. A cerebral hemorrhage? Cerebral hemorrhaging?
Mm-hmm.
Hemorrhaging of the brain bleed. At
Rough.
the age of 72, she was an American actress and psychotherapist. Had a diverse career with 81 acting credits in film, television, and theater.
Wow.
Those
2 things don't converge very often.
No, but we'll get to that in a minute. It was 2 separate parts of her career, or her life in general. The films included Goodbye, Mr. Fancy in 1951. Rule made her screen debut in this film, playing the role of Virginia Merrill. Belle Brooke and Candle in 1958. She portrayed Merle Kittredge, a rival for James Stewart's affections. The Chase in 1966, where she played Emily Stewart. 3 Women in 1977, where she delivered a notable performance as Willie Hart in Robert Altman's film. And Missing 1982, where she portrayed Kate Newman in a political drama. In television, she was in The Twilight Zone in 1960, Murder, She Wrote in 1989, the Ray Bradbury Theater in 1992, where she played Anna in the episode Some Live Like Lazarus. Interesting bit about her. She transitioned to psychotherapy in the late 1980s. She pursued a career earning a PhD from Southern California Psychoanalytic Institute in 1983. Her stage career was an acclaimed one, notably starring as Madge in the original Broadway production of Picnic in 1953.
I don't know Picnic.
I've never heard of it. Apparently she did a good job in it, though.
I wonder if, because she continued acting after she gained her PhD, I wonder if her work in psychotherapy actually helped her acting. Or from
I would imagine it didn't hurt.
Role portrayal perspective. Interesting.
I don't know anything about psychoanalytics.
Okay.
I'm no gynecologist.
That's a good thing. Terry Burnham starred as Marky in this episode. She was the creepy girl child sitting on the stairs,
A hell of a description.
singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when we first meet her.
That's copyright infringement for sure.
Terry was born August 8th, 1949 in Los Angeles, California. She passed away October 7th, 2013 in Long Beach at the somewhat young age of 64. She's an American actress, best known for her work as a child performer in television and film during the 50s and 60s. Throughout her career, she accumulated a total of 30 acting credits, so not a lot.
Not a huge amount, although her career didn't last all that long compared to most of the folks we see in this.
Right,
the show.
comparatively speaking, yeah.
Oh, that seems to be a going trend for child actors of the time that we come across. They don't seem to stay in the field very long.
Yeah, as we saw in The Big Tall Wish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Her notable film credits include Imitation of Life, 1959, where she portrayed the young Susie, daughter of Lana Turner's character. Boy, did I get a wrong number! Exclamation mark.
It's a hell of a title.
1966, where she played Doris Mead. And in television, The Twilight Zone, 1960, obviously. Marky in this episode of Nightmare's Child. And Shirley Temple's Storybook, 1959, where she appeared as Princess in the episode The Magic Fishbone.
My personal favorite episode of Shirley Temple's Storybook.
Of course. Are you familiar with Shirley Temple?
Of course not.
Not at all, really?
With Shirley Temple?
Animal Crackers.
Yeah, of course I'm familiar
with
with Shirley Temple. I'm just not her storybook.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I've never heard of her storybook.
Yeah. Did you know she kept the curls for a really long time?
Yeah, way too long.
Trademark. Wagon Train, 1959 to 1964.
Second time Wagon Train's come up.
Mm-hmm. She had multiple roles.
29 episodes.
Wow. Are you keeping track?
It was 2 episodes ago that it came out for the first time.
Nice.
So yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Oh, man. She had multiple roles across 5 episodes of Wagon Train. And some interesting little tidbits. She began her acting career at the age of 6, debuting on television in 1955, and finally formally retired from acting in 1971. So not a long career, but a marketable one. Also, interesting to note, she was buried 5 years after she died.
That sounds so much worse when you don't preface with the pertinent information.
Yeah.
They weren't just hanging on to her.
No, she was cremated. So her ashes were being held lovingly by, I assume, a family member. And they were buried in Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Long Beach on August 8th, 2018, which would have been her 69th birthday.
Nice. Next, we have the only notable dude in this one, and boy, is he not giving us a great name.
Creepy.
Shepard Strudwick.
What a name.
Strudwick.
Was that his actual name, or like?
That was one of the names he acted under. I believe his first name was actually Jonathan.
I would have went with Shepard as well.
I believe Shepard
Strudwick
was actually his last name. I don't know where the Strudwick came from. He was born September 22, 1907, died January 15th in 1983.
Wow.
Known for his matinee good looks, which no matter how I form it, just doesn't feel like a compliment.
Nope. Very backhanded at best.
Yeah. Though some believed that it was actually his eerie countenance that kept him from landing any leading man fame in his career.
It's the widow's peak.
He's got a very I want to suck your blood kind of widow's peak going on. I feel like he's going to count at me lovingly and laugh about it. Despite that, he did have a lot of work and regularly returned to the theater, which is referred to several times as his first true love. Isn't that sweet?
How romantical.
At least somebody loves him. Well, he loved theater. I don't know if it loved him back. He was best known for his role as Adam Stanton in All the King's Men in 1949. Father
Masseau?
Masseau?
Yeah.
That feels French. In Joan of Arc, 1948. Dr. Larry Forbes in Dr. Renault's Secret in 1942.
A lot of doctors in 1942.
A lot of doctors in 42. And as Anthony Vickers in A Place in the Sun in 1951. A surprise for the amount of work he had.
Mm-hmm.
There's a surprisingly small amount of information
On him as a person?
just out there. I didn't do a deep dive on him mine because even in this episode, I didn't find him to be all that interesting. Obviously, he plays a pivotal role in the episode, but
Creepy.
creepy,
what you need
creepy,
to know.
creepy.
He is creepy.
Yeah, his eerie countenance really doesn't do him any good. Doesn't do him any help in this one. But I would say he has all the good looks of a matinee.
Is that going to be your
Whatever
new,
the fuck that means.
your new favorite compliment to give people?
I mean, it might replace You Have a Face for Radio for a while.
You've got a face for matinee, buddy.
Man, you've got a face for the matinee showing, huh? Boy, howdy.
Good stuff.
That dress was born for the matinee. No, your butt doesn't look fat. It looks like it was designed for the matinee.
Noted.
I'm talking to you. Okay. So, the plot in this one.
Uh-huh.
Do we want to do a play-by-play or do we want to do a general run-through?
Let's do a general run-through. I think it is an episode worth watching. You definitely
Don't give
should
it a marble rating yet.
go-
We're not there yet.
go back and watch the episode because it's good. Much
It is
like
good.
the last one, we shouldn't do a play-by-play on this one just because there's a lot of little intricate details and I don't want to do it.
No, we'll do it in Injustice if
In
we try to
Injustice.
go plot by plot,
Mhm.
point by point. But
So give me the overview.
Ay, Dios mío, Barbara Jean Trenton, a schoolteacher, encounters a mysterious little girl named Marky outside her apartment. Marky seems oddly familiar, leading Barbara to confront repressed memories of a traumatic event from her past.
That is a very succinct plot.
It's concise.
Mhm.
Everything you need to know is right there. That's the entire episode.
But
Nailed
you
it.
should
Go home.
watch it because it's good.
There is a little more to it.
Yeah, something akin to jump scares before they were actual jump scares.
I mean,
I would consider this a psychological
100% psychological.
thriller.
I don't know that I'd call it a thriller. It's not all that thrilling.
It's thrilling for the time.
Maybe.
Thrilling for the
wasn't there.
Twilight Zone.
Certainly thrillery vibes for what we've had so far in this season of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of themes of psychology or psychological traumas and the power of confronting one's
past.
It's like we're on the same page of this Google Doc. I enjoy the shadows, the lighting in this episode.
Yeah,
They're creepy. So there's that.
The music too. The use of music to almost promote jump scare, but not quite jump scare because they didn't have the massive like orchestra.
It certainly didn't have the budget for the massive orchestra.
It's true.
It's I don't even know where to start with this episode. Like, do we talk about all the things that are potential to talk about? Do we talk about the drama? Do we talk about confronting one's
Repressed
memories? Do we talk about the importance of healthcare, mental health care? Do we like where do we start with this episode?
Oh, we could definitely go in any one of those directions. I think the way they portray trauma as older woman meeting her younger child self, but not aware that she is meeting her younger child self.
Choice.
Excellent.
Excellently done. Creepy.
They could have done without Shepard Stridwick's character furthering that plot point.
Yeah, he didn't feel. He felt kind of like he was there to pander to the lowest common denominator. Really drive home the point, just in case it was missed.
Whereas I would have been perfectly happy watching this entire episode with the lead lady, Janice Rule, as Barbara Jean Trenton. I would have been perfectly happy watching Barbara Jean Trenton have conversation with Marky. like for
100%.
the whole 24 minutes of this episode.
They definitely could have taken a Sunset Limited approach with this one, and it would have been just as good.
And mostly because of how Marky portrays her bit here. She's very creepy on the stairs when we see her. Barbara invites her into the apartment. They're sitting on the couch. She asks if she wants some cocoa. So she makes her some hot cocoa. And Marky, in a very calm, like, poker face, was like, but you don't like marshmallows. Because she asked her if she wanted marshmallows in her cocoa. But you don't like marshmallows. And so you're getting these little hints along the way that there's something to this little girl, that she's not just some neighborhood kid. Like, there's something there. And then she just kind of vanishes. They did that cutscene really well, where she just kind of poofs. And the cocoa's just sitting there. And then there's a knock at the door where Shepard's character comes in and introduces himself, and they're talking, and she gets real weird vibes. Barbara gets real weird vibes from him. And then...
Well, I mean, I got weird vibes from him.
Yeah.
He's creepy.
From the jump.
Creepy as hell. Immediately.
And then we find out that his connection with her goes back to her childhood, because he informs her that he worked for her mother once upon a time when she was a child, and brought up the fact that her nickname was Marky, that he knew her as Marky.
Doesn't he actually say that he was the first one to find her mom's body when she was murdered?
Yeah, in the opening sentence. How's that for
right, like, thanks, dude.
Didn't need to know that. I blocked it for a reason.
The Marky bit, she mentions this child Marky that she's been talking to, which is when he brings up that her nickname was Marky as a child. And that's the first time we really get an insight into what's going on with Marky. And I keep forgetting her name.
Barbara?
The girl that played Marky?
Oh, Terry.
Yeah, Terry Burnham. Does such a phenomenal job.
At 6
of portraying what is functionally like along the lines of a hallucination, like something akin to a manifestation rather than an actual human,
right?
And it comes across like she absolutely kills it, and it's part of what makes this episode so damn creepy.
Yeah. The when she invited her in with the cocoa,
there's just a circus upstairs. It's fine.
Oh, good. Invited her in with the cocoa, and then she disappears, and the cocoa's still sitting on the table. Like, that is something akin to like our modern horror films where there's a ghost and then they're a bodily impression of a person and then they disappear. Like,
do you remember? Oh God, what episode was it? It was one of the early episodes that we did, where Homie is alone in the town.
Oh yeah, where is it?
Where is everybody? It reminded me of him walking into the police station to see the burning cigarette.
Yes.
That was never explained.
Yes.
Because we never got any information about that burning cigarette. It is never suggested that anybody else was in the town. We never found out why that cigarette was burning.
But it was.
But it was burning, giving a very simple...
Big Brother-esque.
It was a very simple thing that had a lot of weight to it. And that moment of like the camera panning over to see the hot chocolate mug had that very similar... This is a very simple little thing.
The difference being that we have a explanation for this.
Right, we have an explanation. We know about Marky. But she's not there now.
Right.
Which, if anything, makes it hit home harder. Because we're not wondering. We know Marky exists. We just don't know where she is all of a sudden.
Right. She's there and then she wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. It's very good.
Very imaginary friend not wanting you to be caught by your parents. So they
Yeah, that's
dip
good.
out for a minute when your mom comes in the room.
Okay, bye.
I'll be back when she closes the door. Bye bye now.
BRB.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, then things took a sinister turn real quick, though.
Yeah, in true Twilight Zone fashion, we have a 22-minute time limit. So we got to move the plot along.
Real quick.
And our boy does that. Our boy, he moves the plot along.
Mhm.
Although it's Marky initially, right? That after Weird Guy leaves, it's Marky who mentions
That was the man you saw earlier.
Well, doesn't she actually mention that her mom was killed, and that guy was like, didn't she mention something about there being more to that guy?
Yes, but in a very kid sort of way.
Okay, I'm not remembering details. But
It's okay, me neither.
it's not actually horribly important.
Marky is the one that makes the connection, though. Yes.
And he comes back. Selden comes back, kind of out of the blue.
Thank you. I was trying to remember his name.
It's Selden. I don't think I mentioned that earlier.
Peter Selden. So the character name, yeah.
Yeah. He comes back kind of out of the blue to confess that he murdered her mom and was planning on murdering her as well, but because she screamed
and alerted the neighbors,
he was afraid the cops were going to catch him, so he ran.
Mm-hmm. But he's been keeping an eye on her.
Because eventually he knew she was going to remember
all the stuff that she blocked.
And he would have to kill her.
Because nobody can know.
Because mom was blackmailing me because I steal money from the bank or wherever the fuck we worked.
I think he was doing her accounting or something. There's something with the books and the money.
Yeah, he was doing some dumb shit. He was doing some sketchy stuff with the books. So he killed her. Opted not to kill the child.
But kept an eye on the child because the child would eventually grow up and as things happen, would remember.
Right.
As far as a display of misplaced or suppressed memory, they do this really well in this episode with Marky coming to light. And I feel like maybe we're talking in.
So he confesses. Our leading lady, who has a name, Barbara, runs as to not be killed by homeboy, who's just admitted that he was going to kill her as soon as she remembered, and then came in to remind her. And then he falls down the stairs.
Oh, very comically.
Very comically.
This. Yes.
As a very Peter Griffin.
Pulls down multiple stairs. Very comedic.
Very comedically. To his very timely death.
Convenient death.
Yeah, very convenient death. And then she tells the cops what happened.
But then she sees another little girl sitting on the stairs. And goes and tells her and calls her name Marky and turns around. And there's this moment of recognition where she looks at the little girl. The little girl's not Marky. The little girl's
clearly not Marky.
The one that we've seen, the one that we know. And she says a really interesting thing. The little girl looks at her and like smiles. And she says, "You have a very pretty smile. Don't ever lose that." And scene.
Yeah. As far as Twilight Zone episode endings go, so the phrase "to lose your smile," that's been around for forever and a day. Well, fuck me running. The world just can't have nice things. To lose your smile is to become overcome by pain, distress, negative emotion, whatever the case may be. So to never lose your smile is to never become completely overwhelmed by the negativity in your life. Always have a reason to smile. always look on the brighter side of things. It apparently at some point was adopted by the Nazi fascism anti-woke right movement to promote the idea that being white and straight isn't a bad thing.
Oh,
They
gross.
apparently adopted the phrase "never lose your smile" and can be seen on patches and things of that nature because we can't just have nice things.
What time period did that originate?
Did it originate from?
Yeah, do you have a date?
I don't have a date. I'm going on a lot of... I'm going to be honest, it's kind of hard to dig through the neo-Nazi bullshit to find pre-fascist horseshit information on it initially.
But it's not in line with the 60s when this came out, right?
There's nothing specifically...
So, like, in terms of Serling and his social commentaries...
Yeah, I don't see anything. Are you asking if the fascist right,
if he would have known that?
No, that is a recent adaptation by the fascist right.
Got it. Okay.
They've recently adopted the terminology in the last couple of years. Yeah, it looks like it's been around for a long time, although I don't have anything directly.
Do you think it could have been taken as like surface value though? She's telling the little girl, "You have a pretty smile. Don't ever lose it."
So I do think that reference was to don't ever become overwhelmed by the negativity.
Don't let your trauma get the best of you.
Yeah, because she lives her life kind of without a smile.
Yeah.
For lack of a better turn of phrase here. I think the point she was trying to make was don't ever stop looking for that silver lining. Don't ever...
Mm-hmm.
At its core, don't ever lose your smile. I'm just so angry now. Like, I wish I hadn't looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I know. And I can't unknow that we can't just have nice things. It's just,
can I talk a little bit? I'm going to roll back a little bit before that phrase, if you don't mind.
Please.
So
I'm losing my smile as we speak.
Selden falls down the stairs dramatically, and then Barbara talks to the police, obviously, because there's been an incident.
There's been a murder.
And after she returns to her apartment, she hears the echo of a little girl's voice singing the same tune, that Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
That Twinkle, Twinkle, Little copyright infringement.
That Marky had been singing. She investigates. That's when she finds the other little girl that's not Marky.
Sitting on the steps singing the Marky song.
Singing the Marky song to her doll. And she has this look of relief on her face when she realizes she doesn't recognize the girl. Meaning that maybe on a deeper level, that having come to justice or having seen justice for the man that killed her mother, like...
she was able to let go.
She's better now.
So there is definitely something to be said about the manifestation, for lack of a more educated word, of Marky. In the I don't have any specifics coming to mind, but I know I've seen similar things played out in movies where early childhood trauma is manifested in manifested and represented by a child of similar age.
Sure, yeah.
To the affected party. And I don't ever want to assume that the Twilight Zone started something or like did something for the first time. It's entirely possible that they did plenty of things for the first time, but I don't ever want to come on here and just assume that because I'm a huge fan and state it like it's a fact. So I don't know where that started. I know that I've seen it several times since. And I think it's a really, while it may not be a unique idea, I do think that there is something very powerful about that manifestation of early childhood trauma being represented by a child
for sure
to the affected party. I think it plays really well on screen.
Yeah.
To have that juxtaposition in relationship.
Because it makes you think. You know, it gets the viewer thinking about all of the possibilities of that representation. And it's such a stark juxtaposition of like trauma, whatever the case may be, whatever type of trauma it may be, alongside this vision of a child whom many people see as carefree and innocent. And
yeah, and I think the reason it works so well is people have a hard time taking, not everybody mind, obviously not everybody, but people have a hard time taking the topic of childhood trauma seriously when talking to an adult.
right.
There's kind of an underlying, that was so many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
or
You
it
were
was,
young.
you were young,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. There seems to be an underlying dismissal of an adult discussing a childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
whereas you cannot dismiss it coming from a child.
Right.
There is something about a child that makes it real,
The presentation is everything.
and I think that's an important thing to address.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the reasons that this particular method of the representation of childhood trauma represented as a child,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it works so well, is you can't dismiss. It's much more difficult to
For sure.
dismiss a child explaining that trauma versus a 40 or 50-year-old adult
Right.
saying, hey, this happened to me once, or this occurred, or I witnessed this, whatever the case may be. I think that's why it works so well.
Mhm.
It's just it makes it brings it closer to reality.
Yeah.
Something about the innocence of a child that makes it hit harder to
Mhm.
think about
Mm-hmm.
things like trauma.
It
at
puts
that
it into a
age.
different perspective for
Yeah.
sure. I really like. Can I read?
No, we don't do that.
Can I read Serling's closing narration?
Yes, please.
So Serling at the end of this episode says, Miss Helen Foley, who has lived in night and who will wake up to morning. Miss Helen Foley, who took a dark spot from the tapestry of her life and rubbed it clean. Then stepped back a few paces and got to take a good look at the Twilight Zone. I really like what he says there in multiple parts.
Yeah, it's another very poetic Serling.
Yes. I like Serling's poetic closing narrations because he just packages it in a nice, neat, pretty bow and was like, hey, listen, viewers, I know what you just watched was super rough to watch. I get it. But it's just the Twilight Zone.
It's just the Twilight Zone. And if I may,
You may.
he bookends this one because he opens it with month of November, hot chocolate, and a small cameo of a child's face, imperfect only in its solemnity. And these are the improbable ingredients to a human emotion, an emotion, say, like fear. But in a moment, this woman, Helen Foley, will realize fear. She will understand what are the properties of terror. A little girl will lead her by the hand and walk her into a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Goddamn, bud.
It's so good, though.
Like, first of all, that's how you gonna bring us in.
Yeah.
And then you gonna close with that poetic ass shit. It's gonna make me want to put my head in the oven.
Yeah.
Like, I love Rod Serling.
His writing is so good.
It's so good.
And the
So
fact
good.
that Helen Foley is a school teacher, like working with children
Right.
and knows like the character of children, I would assume. Hence her being
Seems
super
reasonable.
open to Marky, because I'll be honest, we've had a lot of neighbors in a lot of places we lived. I wouldn't invite a child into our house.
It's 2024. I wouldn't invite a child that I knew lived here into this house just to be safe.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's good.
But yeah, it's normally this is a thing that would bother me about
Mhm.
the Twilight Zone in how bookended this episode is.
But it works for this.
But it worked really well in this episode. The narrative was unique
Mm-hmm.
in that it it wasn't a typical episode of the Twilight Zone.
Mhm.
It was a pretty steep deviation from the norm for their writing. And I don't remember, was this one co-written, or was this a Rod?
I think this was a Rod original.
Yeah, so it's unique. It's an interesting palate cleanser for the season.
Yeah, this one was written solo by Rod. And I agree. Yeah, palate cleanser's a good way to cap that.
And I also think it's important to note that this was in 1960.
Mm-hmm.
This is a topic that has been broached
so many times,
100,000 times since then.
Mm-hmm.
Was probably broached a few times, maybe, before this.
Well, and the fact that it was a female lead.
It was a female lead.
Dealing with childhood trauma.
Discussing things that weren't real popular to talk about.
Yeah.
It was well done.
Mm-hmm.
It was well done. It's you should go back and watch it. If you're listening and you haven't, you should go back and watch this one. And then go through and count how many times we call her Barbara. For no reason. There's not a joke. We got her name wrong a couple of times.
A few times, yeah.
Sorry about that. It's probably confusing.
It's Helen. Her name is Helen.
It's Helen
Janice
Foley.
Rule plays Helen Foley.
Yeah.
Wait, we got it now.
Yeah, we got it.
What's the Marvel rating for this one? I'm gonna give it a 5, I think.
This one gets a 5 from me.
10.
Absolutely.
Easy 10.
Yeah, it gets a 10. I ain't naming anybody's kid after this fucking episode. All these names are terrible, but
although Nightmare as a Child as a name, pretty solid.
Not a bad band name.
No. You could abbreviate it. Knack.
Ugh. I hated all of that.
I mean,
I think this is only our second episode that's got a 10.
Yeah.
There will be more to come, I reckon.
I'm sure.
As the seasons go on, but because, man, it only gets better.
This
just
is
keeps getting better.
Officially the full disclosure. This is officially the last season the last episode up to this point that I have pre-watched to record.
Yeah.
Going into 30, I've not seen 30 and beyond. So back to the original plot of Wander With Us, in that Connor's seen them all and I'm just watching. We finally circled back to that. Many years later.
We finally got back to the original idea.
Because I can 100% say I have not seen episode 30 and I'm looking forward to it. Can you, which one is that?
That is, Stop in Willoughby. Willoughby. Something. I've talked to you about this one. I'm trying to remember what the actual wording is. Yeah. It's certainly, so I would say it is one of my favorites of season 1.
Okay. You've had a couple.
Season 1 has a lot of really good episodes.
A Stop at Willoughby. Okay. I just looked it up.
Thank you. I knew it had to do with Willoughby, because Willoughby is a reoccurring name. Rod uses it regularly to describe idyllic settings.
Okay.
He will regularly bring back Willoughby as the.
So Willoughby is his Stars Hollow.
Yeah. This one, A Stop at Willoughby. Thank you, ad. That was poorly timed. Tired of his miserable job and wife, a businessman starts dreaming on a train each night about an old idyllic town called Willoughby. Soon he has to know whether the town is real and fancies the thought of seeking refuge there.
Okay. So in terms of synopses,
not a bad one. There's a little more to it. Obviously, they're not giving us the
full scope
or the ending, which is nice of them. It's one of those episodes that you ever seen a show or a movie that just made you want to buy merch?
Yeah.
You want to own a piece of it.
Yeah.
That's this one for me.
Okay.
I've been looking for a
you want a Willoughby shirt?
No, I've been looking so it's very specific, but I've been looking for a Willoughby funeral home sign for years.
Okay.
When you watch it, you'll see the sign that I'm talking about. It comes up in he goes by the Willoughby funeral home.
And you want the sign?
I have been looking for a replica of that sign for years.
To like hang on your wall?
Just a piece of decoration.
Put in the studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite literally. So I found a dude on Etsy that made Willoughby, the Willoughby station signs that is at the train station in this episode. And they're cool. Like, he's obviously a Twilight Zone nerd.
But you want the funeral home.
The funeral home sign was what caught my attention watching the episode the first time.
Okay.
I will probably eventually get the Willoughby station sign when I decide to pay that dude $150 for one of his hand-carved signs. They're worth it. They're very high quality, but I really want that Willoughby funeral home sign.
Yeah.
I haven't found it. It's not a popular piece of Twilight Zone merch, so it doesn't get mass replicated, but it's a good episode.
I'm looking forward to it. Can I kick us off with what I'm going to show their ears?
Show their ears.
So, for this week, we talk a lot about podcasts. We talk a lot about the YouTubes. This is not a YouTube thing. What I am bringing to you
Are we like contractually allowed to bring not YouTube?
I mean, maybe. I don't remember signing anything that said otherwise. And so, for that, hold please.
I've gotten really good at forging your signature.
I
didn't read the contract.
Scary. I don't know if I like that bit of info. Oh, I am going to
Did you know that we're married?
I do recall.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you signed that one or if I did.
I signed that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You squiggled on that one, so I think it counts.
I was the social worker. It's not my fault my signature looks like a swirl. I had a lot of paperwork to get through.
This is true. Okay, I found it. I am bringing to you this week Mike and Vittorio's Guide to Parent.
Oh, boy, howdy. Time to get canceled.
These guys. They...
Don't get me wrong. I fucking love Mike and Vittorio.
They are two Irish comedians who have a podcast. They talk a whole lot of garbled nonsense about nothing, and it's my favorite thing. It actually has
so good.
Nothing to do with parenting.
No, that's the best part about it. Neither of them are parents. And
it took me approximately 25 episodes before I'm like, they're not going to talk about parenting.
Did I introduce you to that one?
You did. And they're so good. They're so much fun to listen to. So the two individual comedians are Vittorio Angeloni and Mike Rice.
The most Irish
of the Irish comedians.
Of Angelonis.
Very good. They're individually hilarious. You should look up both of their bits on YouTube.
Vittorio they both released their full-length specials on YouTube. They're both phenomenal.
Yeah, if you need a laugh, if you're in a funk, definitely check them out.
If you're in a funk, or if you just like appreciate, my favorite part about Mike and Vittorio working together on anything is that Mike is there's a level of shock comedy to Mike.
For sure.
He likes getting a rise out of people.
He'll say the abrasive thing on purpose to say the abrasive thing.
Right, to be the one that says the abrasive thing, and I love that about him. Mm-hmm. Vittorio, it took him a while to open up on the podcast.
For sure.
Because his comedy style isn't really like that.
It's a different format for him.
They're two very different comedians that individually are absolutely hysterical. And when they get together, it's fucking chaos.
Can I also say this is the first show their ears that you're like equally as enthusiastic about my thing as I am?
Oh yeah, you brought a water bottle recently, so yeah.
Okay, my emotion support water bottle is fantastic. Okay,
it is fantastic, but I love Mike and Vittorio. I'm very excited.
Yes,
I'm so glad that you brought them.
Mike and Vittorio's Guide to Parenting.
And then check out both of their individual specials on YouTube.
It's awesome. What are you showing their ears?
I am showing their ears possibly the greatest piece of cinematography maybe ever. Maybe ever. So just yesterday, I was introduced to what I can only describe as a cinematic masterpiece.
Oh,
A hour-long perfection perfected.
okay.
The movie is called Velocipaster.
I have no idea what this is.
So this is...
You've not actually talked to me about this in real life, so...
I literally watched it last night.
And you're saying this with a straight face.
I said a lot of that with a straight face. So it follows a pastor who gets scratched by...
Are you telling me he gets scratched by a dinosaur?
No, he gets scratched by a dinosaur tooth. And, like, it's a round tooth that cuts very deep into his palm, and that should give you some idea of the quality of film.
Is this Spider-Man
No,
without
no,
the
no,
Spider-Man?
no, no, no,
Because
no, no.
instead of a radioactive spider, it's a blunt shark or blunt dinosaur tooth.
No, so Spider-Man gets bit by a radioactive spider and develops the ability to use spider-like properties in his life. This is a pastor who gets scratched, cut, nay, gouged by simply holding onto a rounded tooth and becomes a wereraptor.
What?
He when he gets angry or scared, he transforms into a velociraptor. That the first time we see this happen, he's wearing a T-Rex suit. And they don't address that. And the second time we see it happen, he's wearing a quote unquote dinosaur costume that you can see the hole he's looking out of, but better yet, every time he throws a martial arts-esque kick, you see the hole in the crotch of the costume that he crawled in through.
Oh no. Oh no. What year was this?
This was like 3 years ago that it came out.
Oh no. Okay, so we can't even blame the era.
No. I wish we could.
Can I ask why this?
Why I'm bringing this?
Uh-huh.
Because misery loves company. And sometimes you find a gym bag and you think, I should open that, and then you smell it because you opened it, and you have to ask somebody else to smell it so that you're not suffering alone.
I see. And you know I won't be watching
And I know that you won't watch this movie because you're not a sadist. Guys, don't... I would never suggest that anybody obtain media by illicit means. I would not do that. Because that would be wrong. And as somebody in the media industry, I cannot condone not paying creators for the art they make. So I'm simply going to say this. You must watch Velocipaster. On an unrelated note, do not pay for this movie. Do not send a penny. Their budget was $38,000 or something to that effect. They spent the entirety of it on a Chevelle and contacts. The costuming was all purchased at a Spirit Halloween by the looks of it. There are two priests who are both wearing, I think they were scream robes with white collars. There's a pimp.
Is this in color?
Yeah, yes. You should watch this movie. There's a pimp who is the pimp of the Velocipaster's girlfriend. Who the movie starts out with the Velocipaster, pre him being a Velocipaster, walking outside to see his parents sitting in a car. And we hear an explosion as the car blows up. And when the camera cuts back, we see the director's note plastered across the screen.
Good.
That literally says car explosion VFX.
Excellent.
Where they couldn't afford to actually have the effects put in. So there's no car. There is the sound of an explosion, a blank shot of the street with white text that says VFX car explosion.
Oh no.
And the Velocipaster, it is cutting between this shot of white text on the screen and the Velocipaster screaming because he just watched his parents get blown up. As it turns out, the pimp Eddie Florida or some shit, he killed him.
Good.
Which he admits in confession.
Excellent.
With Velocipaster, who dons his Velociraptor gloves.
I'm sorry?
There's twice in this movie that he half transforms. Again, budgetary constraints, I think. So the only part of him that's a dinosaur is his hands. But you can see the gloves. Like, the gloves are like flopping against his forearms.
I'm just envisioning like oven mitts.
They're as loose as oven mitts, but they're like Velociraptor hands. But like they're flopping because they don't fit on his form. They're too big for him. There's 2 points in this movie where people lose their heads. They use the same mannequin head for both people.
Good.
They do the second time there's a close-up shot because it's a Chinese martial art drug smuggler for Jesus.
Sure.
Who is in a fight and the Velocipaster rips his head off. And then holds up this mannequin head that they've glued a Fu Manchu mustache on.
Oh no. Oh no.
And he screams as we get a close-up on what is obviously a mannequin head dripping with fake blood.
I don't know what to do with this information you've given me.
I'm telling you what you have to do with this information. You have to watch this movie.
I will not be watching
this movie. And on an unrelated note, you must not ever pay for this movie. Nobody's hard-earned money should go to seeing this film.
Fair.
And on an unrelated note, you must watch this film.
Thank you for this PSA.
It's like I'm there again.
And on that fine note, I've been Bethany.
I'm still Connor.
Thank you for listening. I think.
Bye-bye now.
Why did you watch that?